Parker was a normal high schooler living in Queens with his Aunt May and Uncle Ben. As a bookworm with a love for science, Peter was mocked by the other kids and called Midtown High's professional wallflower. One day after school, Peter goes to see a demonstration of new radioactive technology. A little spider happens to pass through the demonstration and becomes irradiated. The radioactive spider climbs up Peter's body and bites him. Not for any reason, I guess it just wanted to fit in with the cool kids. The spider bite gives Peter the proportional strength, reflexes, and wall climbing ability of a human spider. To test out his new powers, Peter puts on a mask and fights the professional wrestler Crusher Hogan. Peter wins easily, and Hogan's producer is so impressed that he offers Peter a job as a pro entertainer. Peter sews himself a costume and invents artificial webbing to add flair to the act. Altogether, Peter Parker becomes television's newest sensation, the Spider-Man. But things go downhill after Peter's first show as an armed robber runs right by him.
Stop! Wait!
Wow, look at him go.
Why didn't you stop him?
What? Against a criminal? That sounds dangerous.
You lifted a 300-pound man with one hand.
I don't see how that's relevant.
It becomes relevant when Peter comes home one night to learn that an armed burglar broke into his home while he was out and killed his Uncle Ben. Peter captures his uncle's killer and discovers that it's the same thief he let run past him a few nights earlier. Peter blames himself for his uncle's death and learns that with great power there must also come great responsibility. He decides to use his powers as Spider-Man for good by fighting crime. And that's the story of how Spider-Man got his start as the world-famous wall crawler of New York City. TLDR, with great power there must also come great responsibility. Obviously. Spider-Man versus the Vulture. Spider-Man has only been a hero for a short time, but he already has his plate full. The famous news publisher J. Jonah Jameson puts out an article calling Spider-Man a menace, who takes the law into his own hands and acts as a bad role model for children.
Spider-Man? Does he want people to think spiders are cool? Spiders are gross and icky. I don't like them.
Even when Spider-Man saves Jameson's astronaut son from crashing and dying, Jameson is convinced that Spider-Man sabotaged the ship so he could save the day and look good. New York City starts getting terrorized by the Vulture, an old man who invented a magnetic flying suit that he uses to commit crimes. As it turns out, the Vulture isn't just skilled at evading cops, but also paparazzi, and nobody's been able to get a good picture of him. J. Jonah Jameson offers good money to anyone who can provide him a decent shot of the feathered felon. With Uncle Ben dead, poor Aunt May can't pay the bill, so Peter takes to the rooftops with a camera in search of the Vulture.
Soon I will rob the diamond exchange, and nobody can stop me.
Why would you tell us what you're planning ahead of time?
I don't know, I'm old and bored. Retirement is for chumps.
Spider-Man takes pictures of the Vulture, but the Vulture spots Spidey and throws him into a water tower. Spider-Man breaks out, and Peter sells the pictures to Jameson, who tells him that he's also been trying to get good photos of Spider-Man. Peter loves the idea of bilking money out of the jerk who's been slandering his name in the press, and agrees to get them for him. The next day, the Vulture robs the diamond exchange as he said he would, and Spider-Man chases him, trying to get pictures. The Vulture attacks, but Spider-Man is ready for him this time. He uses an anti-magnetic inverter he invented to mess with the Vulture's flying technology, sending the old man plummeting to the ground. The Vulture survives the fall and is captured by the police. Peter sells pictures of the fight to Jameson and agrees to keep bringing him pictures so long as he's paid well and never asked how he gets them. And that's the story of how Spider-Man became a hero, both to the people of New York and his financially troubled aunt. TLDR, get back at your enemies by story. We're gonna need to do a rundown of a few key spider people from other dimensions. Miles Morales is the Spider-Man of the Ultimate Comics universe. In Miles' world, Peter Parker died heroically, and after his death, Miles took up the mantle of Spider-Man to keep the world's greatest hero alive. Mayday Parker is the daughter of Peter Parker and Mary Jane from an alternate universe. Like her dad, she has spider powers and uses them to fight crime as Spider-Girl. The superior Spider-Man is actually Otto Octavius. A few years ago, Dr. Octopus took over Spider-Man's body. He was going to use it for evil, but then saw Peter's memories and decided to be good instead, albeit in a villainous way. Peter has since regained control of his own body. Silk is a young woman who was bitten by the same spider that bit Peter Parker. She was locked in a vault to be protected from this story's villains, the Inheritors, and she spent her whole life training to use her powers. Peter eventually found the vault and let Silk out, but because they have matching pheromones, the two of them are always making out whenever they're together. Kane is an angsty clone of Peter Parker. How did Peter get a clone? Well, we won't get into that, because it's a complicated web of a lot of different stuff. Spider-Man 2099 is Miguel O'Hara, a scientist from the year 2099. Miguel gave himself spider powers while trying to create a hero similar to the Spider-Man of the past. Now let's dive right into the story. During his time as Spider-Man, Otto Octavius traveled across time and dimensions. During these adventures, he learns about the Inheritors, a family of dimension-hopping vampires who feed on beings with spider powers. They do this because of the Master Weaver, a naked dude in a spider machine who spins a web of fate that holds reality together. The Inheritors have enslaved the Master Master Weaver, and he tells them that a bunch of spider people will eventually destroy them if they don't kill the spider people first. To stop the Inheritors, Otto begins jumping dimensions to form a spider army. Meanwhile, another group of spider people all go to recruit Peter Parker from the 616 universe because he's the only Spider-Man to ever defeat the Inheritor called Morlun. Peter takes his spider team to meet up with Otto's spider team, but suddenly the Inheritor Deimos attacks them. Otto kills Deimos, and then the spider army retreats because more Inheritors are on the way. The spider army goes to Earth 13, which is protected by a cosmic Spider-Man. His powers are so great that even the Inheritors are too scared to attack. The army plans a counterattack and then splits up into teams. Spider-Man 2099 travels to the future with a 6-armed Spider-Man and the steampunk Lady Spider to analyze Deimos' corpse and look for weaknesses. Miles Morales takes the Spider-Man from the modern TV cartoons and runs off to recruit more Spider-Men, starting with the Spider-Man from the 60s cartoon. His team also finds a talking spider buggy that they go joyriding in. Kane and a few other spider clones travel to an alternate Earth where the Inheritor Genic has a cloning factory. This factory provides his family with new bodies for their souls to flee into even if they are killed. Silk quickly runs off on her own to act as a decoy because the Inheritors seem especially interested in capturing her. Spider-Woman chases after Silk to make sure she doesn't get into too much trouble. Meanwhile, Peter Parker and Otto Octavius fight over who gets to be the leader of the spider army. Peter kicks Otto's tuchus, but the safe zone is compromised when the father of the Inheritors, Solus, shows up. Cosmic Spider-Man's powers are derived from pure life force, so he's actually the heartiest meal the Inheritors can eat. And Solus is hungry, so Cosmic Spider-Man becomes Cosmic Snack Man. Then, the Inheritors kidnap Mayday Parker's baby brother Benji, and with Cosmic Spider-Man dead, all hope seems lost. Suddenly, a few Spider-Women show up with the live-action Japanese Spider-Man and his giant robot Leopardon. The robot attacks Solus in all of its glory, and then gets torn to pieces. The spider army runs away. Spider-Woman has infiltrated the Inheritors base by pretending to be a concubine, and meets the Master Weaver, who, in a small act of rebellion, gives her some magic scrolls that she teleports to Peter Parker. Silk finds a nuclear wasteland that the Inheritors can't survive in, so the spider army uses this world as their new base of operations. They find a fallout shelter that's home to the last man alive on Earth, the Spider-Man of this world, Uncle Ben Parker. After the death of his family, Ben gave up on being a superhero and failed to stop Dr. Octopus from turning the world into an irradiated wasteland. The magical Spider-Girl, Anya Corazon, reads the scrolls, which reveal that Benji, Silk, and Kane form a magic trio. If their blood is collected and spilled on the web of destiny, every spider person will die, destroying the one thing prophesized to kill the Inheritors. The clone team destroys the clone factory and kills Genic. Kane becomes so angry that he turns into a giant spider monster and goes on a rampage in the Inheritors world. He savagely kills Solus, and Morlun savagely kills Kane and collects his blood for the ritual. Silk also goes to the Inheritor world but gets captured. Now the Inheritors have Silk, Benji, and the blood of Kane, everything they need to complete their ritual. The spider army makes their final assault. Peter leads his team into battle, and then Miles Morales shows up with his recruits. Spider UK has also recruited Karn, the estranged member of the Inheritors, to fight on the side of the spiders. Uncle Ben and Spider-Ham, the talking pig Spider-Man, manage to save baby Benji, disrupting the ritual. Spider-Man 2099 and Lady Spider show up to the fight with Japanese Spider-Man's mech repaired. All these reinforcements mean one thing: the Inheritors are doomed. The spider army wipes the floor with the Inheritors and then throws them into the radioactive world. The spider people are victorious. But in the aftermath of the victory, there's trouble amongst the spiders. During the battle, Superior Spider-Man decided to literally end destiny by killing the Master Weaver and cutting up the great web of life and destiny. Peter beats up Otto again and sends him back in time with no memory of what happened. And then Karn takes the place of the Master Weaver to repair the great web. Uncle Ben goes to Mayday's dimension to be part of the family again, and all the other spiders go home to happy endings. Except Spider UK, whose dimension was destroyed as part of the build-up to Secret Wars. But hey, it's not a Spider-Man story of